Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here, and today I'm coming at you with a video, and this video is going to be about the NBA awards for this upcoming season, 2018 to 19, who I think will come away with various awards, how I think various players will do, and just a little bit about the season overall. I'll be coming out with a few more videos later on with a more general NBA preview about standings and playoff seedings and stuff like that. But for this video, I'm basically just going to do awards like MVP, Rookie of the Year, all NBA first team, second team, third team, all defensive teams, all rookie teams, Coach of the Year, stuff like that. So yeah, let's get into the video. So first off, I'm going to talk about individual awards, and then I'm going to go on to team awards. So as far as most improved player, which is I think an award that I think a lot of people forget about. For this award, I was trying to think of a lot of different players who could come away with it, but I think one that could pretty easily win it, depending on if he just stays healthy and plays games and puts up not terrible numbers, would be Markelle Fultz. Last year he only played I think about 13 games and he put up pretty mediocre numbers. I think he was getting like 5 points a game. So like this year, if he starts, let's say 70 games or plays in at least 70 games, and if he can just average like 11 to 12 points a game, I think that he could definitely win the award. And if he doesn't shoot like 35%, obviously. So he's my pick. I think that people will be pretty surprised by how well he plays in this next season, because I think he's going to be an underrated player going in. And people are forgetting that he was a #1 overall pick at one time. So I think it'll definitely be telling to see how he performs in this upcoming season. So moving on from there, the next award that I want to go over is the Rookie of the Year award. And for this one, I kicked around a lot of different candidates, but the one I landed on was Luka Doncic. I think a lot of people would just generally expect me to say DeAndre Ayton, but I think DeAndre Ayton will be more of a slower start than we expect. I think that he will be a player sort of like Andrew Wiggins, you know. And now Andrew Wiggins won Rookie of the Year in his season, so you might be saying, well, why wouldn't you pick Ayton then? But I think Ayton will take longer than we expect to get to the type of player that people think he's going to be. I think that Ayton in his first year might only put up like 14 points and 8 rebounds a game. I wouldn't be shocked by that. But I do think Doncic will be really good in his first year. I'm looking for him to average about 15, 6, and 6 on good shooting percentages, and I think that that'll be good enough to win Rookie of the Year. I don't think there's any clear-cut, really good candidates for this award this year. I don't really think Marvin Bagley will win it. I think the front court in Sacramento is too crowded for him to get tons of playing time. Jaren Jackson, he's going to be like the third option at best in Memphis, so I don't think he'll get a ton of touches. Trae Young, I think, will get a lot of points per game, but he might shoot under 40% from the field, so we'll have to see about that. And so on and so forth. I don't think a ton of other guys will make huge impacts. You know, be rotation guys, but not starters or impactful players immediately on the teams that they go to. So moving on from Rookie of the Year, I next have Sixth Man of the Year, which I think will go to Lou Williams. He's won the award before. I think he'll win it again this year. He is a guy who's obviously good enough to start on an NBA team, but is more impactful coming off the bench, because with the second unit, where typically in the NBA there's less of a scoring punch, with second units he really is that guy who can lead an offense when it's secondary players. So he comes off the bench, I predict, for the Clippers, and he'll win the award. He'll probably average around 18, 19 points a game like he did last year. Well, actually last year he averaged around 23, 24 points a game. So this year, him averaging 18 and 19 might be a little bit of a step back, but that's where I think right around 19, you know, maybe 20 points a game is fair. Between 18 and 20, I'll see somewhere in there. Probably pretty decent shooting numbers, I'd guess around like 40, between 45 and 50% from the field, maybe like 47, 48. Decent three-point shooter, so I see him winning that award pretty easily. Also, a guy like Eric Gordon could win it, or you know, depending if J.J. Redick permanently comes off the bench for the Sixers, J.J. Redick could be in the conversation to win it. Those would be my 3 leading candidates, I think, going into this. So yeah, but I see Lou Williams winning basically because he'll probably be the best scorer on the Clippers, and he'll be coming off the bench. So I think that speaks a lot of volumes to him winning Sixth Man of the Year. Next, I have as my Coach of the Year, I have Brad Stevens. I think that a lot of people thought he should have won last year, and just based on I think the Celtics probably being the favorite in the East, I think that they'll have the best record, if not the second best record. I think that he'll get recognized for that. I could see them win. If they win 60 games, I think he'll definitely win it, but I still think that he could win it if they only win around 55. But yeah, I just see him coming home with it because I don't see anybody else. Like Steve Kerr's already won it. Mike D'Antoni's won it 2 years ago. I don't really see anyone else having that great of a season. I don't think Nick Nurse will win it in Toronto. I don't see Brett Brown winning it for Philly. But I think the one competitor Brad Stevens could have is like a team that wasn't great last year that comes up and does a lot better this year. So maybe, let's say the Mavericks somehow miraculously make the playoffs, which some people think that they might. If they did that, I could see like Rick Carlisle winning it. But I think basically it'll be Brad Stevens' award to lose. Moving on from that, for Defensive Player of the Year, I have Anthony Davis winning. He's consistently been one of the best defensive players in the league for the past couple of seasons, really since he came out of the draft. He always gets a lot of blocks, a lot of defensive rebounds, has good defensive numbers. So I see him coming away with it because I think he's getting more in the spotlight these days because people are just paying attention to him more because he's coming into his prime, basically. So I see him winning this award. I don't think people have voter fatigue from Kawhi Leonard, but I think that people just realize that two is enough for him. You know, like Dwight Howard won 3 back in the day, and you know, he was the best defensive player for a few other years besides those 3 years, but people didn't give it to him just because of voter fatigue, basically. And so despite Kawhi maybe being the best, I think sometimes people want to spread the love and give it to other guys. And so I think Anthony Davis will win it this year. Rudy Gobert could maybe win it again, but I think that people sometimes just want to vote for the popular guy, and I think that's why AD might win it this year. And for MVP, I have basically a 2-man tie, but because that's really lame, I'll come up with the guy I think will win it for you guys. So the runner-up I'm going to say is AD because I think that he will have a miraculous season. I predict him to average about 28, 12, and 4, probably around 3 blocks a game, 1.5 steals a game. Probably shoot about 54% and about 36% from 3. Those are my rough predictions for him. So I think those are really solid numbers, obviously. And I think if the Pelicans make the playoffs, he'll be the MVP. But I don't know if they'll make the playoffs. They're really in that awkward range where I feel like they could be the 10 seed. They could be the 6 seed. It's really jumbled up in that area in the Western Conference as far as competition. So I'll say this. If the Pelicans make the playoffs, I'll predict AD to win the MVP. If they do not make the playoffs and the Los Angeles Lakers do, I'll predict LeBron James to win MVP. Basically, if AD doesn't win it, I'm going to say LeBron wins it. I think that the Lakers will definitely improve on 35 wins. My guess would probably be around 46 wins for them. And that's an 11-win improvement, so that would make LeBron look really good for vaulting them into that next level of team, a higher echelon of quality of team. And I think that would definitely get attributed to LeBron coming to the Lakers. And I think that a lot of people have been saying the past couple of years that LeBron deserved some MVP awards that he was losing out on. A lot of people thought that last year LeBron deserved it. He averaged 28, 9, and 9 and didn't get it. And his team got to the finals and all that. Although people don't account for the playoffs, still people thought that it was a great offensive season for him. And just the past couple of years, a lot of people have thought he should win, like in 2016 to 17 too, when Westbrook won. LeBron got 3rd, and then last year he got 2nd. So I think that maybe this is the year. If he goes on a team and they have a big win jump, that might create an extra reason for people to vote for him. So this could be his 5th MVP season. But if the Pelicans make the playoffs, I'm going with AD. Otherwise, I'm going with LeBron. Alright, so moving on from those individual awards, I guess the next category is individual awards as well, but I'm going with the All-NBA first team. So on the All-NBA first team, at the guard spots, I have Steph Curry and James Harden. I think Harden will just have a great season like he has the past couple, so he'll make that because of that. I think that Curry will make it because, number one, he's a great talent, one of the best players in the NBA flat out, and also people in the media love him. Like last year, he played about half the season, and he still got on an All-NBA team. So that's really impressive. I think that speaks to his likability, and I think that although it sounds lame, I think that likability is more of a factor in these award-winning things than people want to account for. So for that reason, I have Steph going on the All-NBA first team. I also think he'll have a really good season, and I think the Warriors will be right around between like 68 to 70 wins, and so they'll put him on the first team. Now, and then Harden, I said, basically because he'll just have a season where he averages around probably 38 and 10, so that's why he'll get on there. I have Kawhi Leonard on the All-NBA first team, and I have him at one of the forward slots, basically because I think that he's going to have a really big bounce back year. I think he wants to prove a lot of people wrong who said that like he's kind of lost his mojo or maybe he won't be as good coming back. Pop traded him because he doesn't like him or because of blah, blah, blah. Kawhi isn't as good as he used to be. Blah. I don't think any of that's true. But I think that he's going to be on a mission this year. I think he really wants to get to the finals with Toronto. I expect to see numbers from him around probably 25 points a game, probably around 5 rebounds a game, 4 assists a game, maybe 5 assists if they give him a lot more ball handling duties in Toronto. He'll be a great defensive player as well as he always is. So I think that when you're a great two-way player, you're automatically vaulted into a really high tier of NBA players. And I think just all those things combined, he'll be on the All-NBA first team. At the other forward slot, I have LeBron James. Obviously, if I have him potentially winning MVP, I should have him on the All-NBA first team. I think he'll put up numbers around 27, 7, and 7. He'll do a lot for the Lakers. He'll make the players around him better. He'll create open shots. He'll score a lot himself. So all those things combined and just factoring in that he's the best player in the game, I think it's pretty natural that he'd be on the All-NBA first team. And at the center slot, I have Anthony Davis, who was also considered a forward on last year's All-NBA teams for some reason. Don't ask me why. He's pretty clearly a power forward, but he did play a little bit of center last year for the Pelicans. But I have them putting him at center just because they want to get the best players on the first team, and I think that if they had to put Embiid on the first team, they'd sort of be lying to themselves and the NBA in general, because they know that Davis is considerably better, and they're almost the same position, power forward and center, so you might as well just put him in there at center. So I have Anthony Davis as my All-NBA first team center. Now moving to second team, for the guard spots, I have Russell Westbrook and Kyrie Irving. For the forward slots, I have Giannis Antetokounmpo and Kevin Durant, and at center I have Joel Embiid. So Russell Westbrook, I think it's pretty clear he's a great All-NBA talent, perennially on the All-Star team and in the MVP conversation. He'll probably put up numbers around 26, 10, and 10 again like he has the past couple seasons. His team will be, I think, in the playoffs pretty easily. I think those things combined make you adequate to be on an All-NBA team. Especially his statistics. His statistics are a big part of why he makes the All-NBA team. So I have him in one slot. I have Kyrie in the other spot because I think that Kyrie will sort of be on a mission to prove to people this season that he is a really great NBA player and that he can lead a team to a championship. I think that he really wants to show that the Celtics getting to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals without him, I think he honestly wants to prove that that was a fluke. Because if they can get that far without him, that means that he doesn't really add that much to the team. But if he comes out this year, averages 25, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists a game, people will and they win 60-plus games, people will realize what he means to the team. And let's say they get to the finals possibly and compete, people will realize the value that he can add to a team. So I think he'll be on the second team. As far as Giannis, he's going to put up 30, 10, and probably 6. And I think just like Westbrook, like the stats are kind of undeniable. He'll be on a playoff team, I think. So when you combine those factors, the stats and the playoff team status, I think that's basically enough to get him on the second team. And then Kevin Durant probably is going to put up around 26, 8, and 6. Really good stats, obviously. He's probably going to be on the best team in the league unless some big injury goes down. So I have him on the All-NBA second team because he is the second best player in the game. And despite that usually meaning that you'd be on the first team, I think that because people will be so surprised by Kawhi's season, and I think they've forgotten about him just a little bit, I think because of all that, he will be on the first team. But Durant is still the second best player in the league, despite him not making the first team. And then at center, I have Joel Embiid because I believe that if I'm counting Anthony Davis as a power forward, I think Joel Embiid is the best center in the league. If he can stay healthy, he'll easily be on the first team. Expect averages of around 25, 12, 3 blocks a game. Good shooting percentages, probably around 55%, and hopefully around like 35% from 3. That'd be nice to see from him. A really good defensive player factors into him making the second team, along with a really good offensive game. So I think that makes sense for him to make that slot. But he isn't better than Anthony Davis, and that's why he's on the second team. All-NBA third team, I have Damian Lillard and Victor Oladipo at the guard spots. The forward slots were really hard. I don't know who to put in where, but I have Paul George and Kevin Love. I'll explain that in a sec. And then at center, I have Karl Anthony Towns. Okay, so basically, Damian Lillard, I think, makes sense. He's a great NBA talent. He'll probably average around 28 points a game, 6 assists a game. I think they're a fringe playoff team or a playoff team, and I think they'll have a record above 500. So I think that'll be enough to get him on an All-NBA team. Victor Oladipo, they'll be on a playoff team. Probably have a pretty good record, pretty close to 50 wins, if not higher. I expect him to put up basically around the same stats as last year, in the ballpark of 23 points a game, 5 and 5, and then he led the league in steals last year. I don't know if that'll happen again. I still expect 2+ steals a game from him. He'll be really good defensively, I think, still, and so for that reason, I have him on this All-NBA third team. And I picked him over guys like Chris Paul and John Wall, because really, I just think that people aren't going to pick Chris Paul anymore just because his scoring numbers for a point guard aren't as flashy as people want them to be. Same for Wall, too. I think it seems like what the NBA wants these days is for point guards to average like 23, 24 points a game or higher. And Chris Paul is a guy that's really just going to give you 18. John Wall, if he's playing how he should be playing, should give you 18 points a game. A few years ago, he averaged 23, but he was really taking way too many shots that year. So for those reasons, I think that they'll put a shooting guard in here. Also, for my other spots, I hadn't picked. I guess James Harden's a shooting guard, but a lot of people count him as a point guard. But really, Oladipo is the only other shooting guard on this list because point guards are just so heavily dominating the NBA right now. But that's fine. So Paul George, I think he'll just have a really solid season. I think him and Westbrook will do well in the Western Conference. I think he'll give us around 23, 5 and 5. Really good shooting numbers I'm expecting from him. For that reason, I think that's about good enough to be on in the All-NBA third team. I think he's going to beat out Jimmy Butler for this because I think that people are just going to be hesitant and reticent to vote for Jimmy Butler this season because he's just such a tumultuous player, causes so much controversy, and not like he's a bad guy at all or that his NBA talent is getting any worse for any reason. I just think that image and likability factor in a lot more than we realize to this award. For that reason, I think that he won't get on the All-NBA team. He'll be an All-Star, just not on the All-NBA team. But I do have Paul George making it. At power forward, I have Kevin Love over guys like Draymond Green and Ben Simmons, and you might ask why. And really, I think it's because Kevin Love's going to put up some gaudy stats this year, in my estimation. I think we'll see 25 a game from him. I think we'll see 12 rebounds a game. I expect to see not Minnesota Kevin Love, because he's not as heavy as he was back then. But we haven't seen Kevin Love have a team run through him in a while. But when it did, he was 25 and 12 every night. So that's what I expect in Cleveland. He'll shoot really good from three, pretty good from the field too. You know, he's going to shoot above 50% from the field, and he's going to shoot about 40% from three, 38% maybe. So I expect good things, and yeah, I just think that he'll get it over a guy like LaMarcus Aldridge, because I expect Aldridge's numbers to dip a bit with DeMar DeRozan coming in, and also I don't expect Draymond to get on here because his team already receives so much love. Some voters are going to be hesitant to vote for another Warrior for an All-NBA team. So his main competition here, I'd say, is Ben Simmons, because I don't really know what to expect from Ben Simmons this year. I think he could very well just maintain a similar level of play, but I also think Ben Simmons could launch into the stratosphere. So I know it's lame, but I'm sort of going with a safe bet in picking Kevin Love here. And for third team center, I'm picking Karl-Anthony Towns. I think despite the Jimmy Butler whirlwind of controversy, I still think Karl-Anthony Towns is going to play well. I expect stats of around 24 and 12 from him. And those are just numbers that are straight up for a center. Those are good enough to get on an All-NBA team, because there are not many quality centers in the NBA these days who put up good stat lines. I mean, like, yes, Marc Gasol is a good center. Yes, Nikola Jokic is a good center. But Nikola Jokic is going to average 16, 10, and 5. And Karl-Anthony Towns averaging 24 and 12 is going to beat that just in a lot of voters' eyes, because a lot of people only pay attention to stats. And yes, Jokic might be about equal with Kat as far as talent, but his game just doesn't translate into a box score as well as Karl-Anthony Towns does. So that's it for the All-NBA teams. Now I'm going to go over to the All-Defensive teams. And so, All-Defensive first team, I have John Wall, Oladipo, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, Rudy Gobert. I'm not going to explain these as much. They're sort of just my predictions. I think Anthony Davis will win Defensive Player of the Year. Kawhi is one of the best defensive players in the game, along with Gobert. Oladipo proved last year he's a really good defensive player. And John Wall, I think, is going to try and prove a lot of people wrong this year, because a lot of people have sort of written him off as not being an elite player in the NBA, so I think he'll really give it his extra effort. John Wall's my dark horse to lead the NBA in steals this year, so look out for that. All-defensive second team, I have Chris Paul, Jrue Holiday, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Joel Embiid. Jimmy Butler says he's going to play games even if he doesn't get traded, so I still expect him to play and be a good player, be an all-star, and be on the all-defensive team. Draymond Green, former Defensive Player of the Year, really good player. I expect him to make the all-defensive team. Joel Embiid made the second team last year. I expect the same out of him. Unless there's a big injury, I expect him to come up with similar production. Jrue Holiday proved last year he's a shutdown defender, and Chris Paul is a perennial steals leader, and I think if he stays healthy again, he will strut his stuff and be up there. One of the guys that I could see subbing in here for Chris Paul or Jrue Holiday would be Klay Thompson. He's a really good defender, doesn't get his due a lot of the times, but I could definitely see him on the all-defensive team. All-rookie teams, I have on the first team Trae Young, Luka Doncic, Kevin Knox, Colin Sexton, and DeAndre Ayton. Rookie teams work different in that you don't have to necessarily slot them in based on position. You can kind of just take the 5 best players. So as you can see, I basically have 4 guards on the first team and DeAndre Ayton. As I said earlier, I think Luka Doncic will win Rookie of the Year, so I have him on here. I think Trae Young will put up really big scoring numbers on bad percentages, but still putting up big scoring numbers attracts people's eyes, so I think he'll get on here. DeAndre Ayton, I think, will be talented, so he'll get on here based on whatever stat line he puts up and being the #1 pick. Unless he's a flop, people will vote for him. Excuse me, guys, that was a timer. I'm very sorry. But besides that, Kevin Knox, I think, will do really well in New York. He won't have really any other options there besides Frank Ntilikina and Enes Kanter. So I think they'll just give him because Kristaps is out until at least like February. But I could see the Knicks just throw him 30 to 35 minutes a night, 15 shots a game, and just say, let's see what you can do, Rook. And he might end up with 16 points a night, which would be pretty cool. And Collin Sexton, a similar situation. I think the Cavs will want to start him, play him 30 minutes a night. I think he'll produce about 11 and 7. But that's a pretty good line for a rookie. And, you know, the Cavs could potentially get in the playoffs as like an 8 seed. If they do that, I think he'll definitely be on the all-defense or all-NBA rookie first team. All-NBA rookie second team, I see a lot of bigger guys actually now. I see Wendell Carter, Marvin Bagley, Mo Bamba, Jaren Jackson, and Mikal Bridges. All the centers I expect to put up about 10 points a game and maybe 8 rebounds. Mo Bamba hopefully around 2 blocks a game. Jaren Jackson, I think, is a guy who I originally thought, like, wow, he will just go into the NBA, average 18 and 10, and help the Grizzlies make the playoffs. But the more I look at him, the more I see a soft bust potential. And I don't know if you guys have remembered when I've used that term in my videos before, but what I call soft bust is basically Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins was supposed to be the next Tracy McGrady / LeBron James, and he wasn't. He was the next Rudy Gay, a guy who averages 20 a game and doesn't do anything else for you. So was he a bust? No. But did he live up to his potential? No. So that's what I call a soft bust, in that they don't like crash and burn like a Kwame Brown, but they don't live up to the hype all the way, which is what I think Jaren Jackson will be. I think he'll be a guy who for his career averages 12 points a game. So that's why I have him on the second team. Mo Bamba probably won't get a ton of playing time, so I have him on the second team. Marvin Bagley, same thing. I said earlier, I don't see him getting a ton of playing time. Wendell Carter, I think, is the guy who I could see on the first team instead of maybe like Kevin Knox, because I don't know how they're going to use him in Chicago. They already have Robin Lopez still, so I don't know who they'll want to start. Also, if they start Jabari at the 4, that'll limit his playing time more. Then if they slot Jabari at the 3, they can play Wendell at the 4, Robin Lopez at the 5. So how Hoiberg decides to play everybody will have a big impact on whether Wendell Carter puts up good stats this year, gets a lot more playing time or a lot less playing time. It could depend on whatever the Bulls want to go in as far as a direction. And Mikal Bridges in Phoenix, I like it a lot. I don't think he'll get a ton of playing time either with Ariza coming over. But, you know, with Devin Booker out for the first couple weeks, that'll open up a spot at shooting guard or small forward that he can slot into and play a few more minutes. I'd really like to see him play at least 20 minutes a game this year. I think he's a really good perimeter shooter and can put the ball in the hole and score pretty well when given a shot. So it'd be nice to see him with an opportunity to do that. And so that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Some of what I think about various awards for this season and predictions. I realize in a video like this where it's all basically opinion, there's a lot of room to disagree with me. So I highly encourage you guys to let me know in the comments if you think I'm right, if you think I'm wrong. Go ahead, tell me, because I know that there's a lot of disagreement about where players should be ranked and how stuff like this shakes out. So feel free to tell me off if you think I'm wrong, and feel free to pat me on the back if you think I'm totally right on. Hope you guys have a good day. Bye.